Joining me now to talk more about Garland's nomination is Pate, a criminal defence and constitutional attorney, and always good to have you here on set with us. You know, there's always politics at play when it comes to the Supreme Court, but tell me about this candidate. By all accounts, this is a moderate. When you talk about a Democratic president, he couldn't be more moderate. This is the best you're going to get from a Democrat.
Absolutely. I agree with that 100%. I don't think we could have found a more moderate person if you look at all the different courts of appeal in the country. This is someone who I think has had the support of Republicans in the past. We know he was confirmed back in 1997 to the U.S. Court of Appeals for the D.C. Circuit, and that's like the court right under the Supreme Court. So it's a very important court. He had the support of Republicans back then. In fact, Senator Hatch said very complimentary things of him back at the time. He does not have a very liberal voting record or opinions that he's written. If you look back, you see someone who's been moderate, clearly well-credentialed, someone who's respected on both sides.
So for the president, I suppose it's him saying, you're not going to get anyone better than this. Now, if you don't want to hold any hearings or consider this candidate, then that's on you. Do you think he's run this name by Hillary Clinton, for example?
That's a great question. I think he must have, because I'm sure Judge Garland would not want to put himself through this process if he didn't think there was a chance he could become the nominee again if Hillary Clinton wins the election. So I feel pretty confident they've at least discussed it with the Clinton campaign. They didn't have to approve it, but I'm sure it's been discussed.
But do you think they could do the old bait and switch, say to the Republicans, all right, you approve this guy this year or next year if we win and some Republican senators don't get their seats back, we're going to go with a real liberal.
Right. I don't even think they need to say that. I think that's clear because this particular nominee is not really popular with the very liberal folks in the Democratic Party. First of all, he's older. He's 63 years old. He's not going to serve on the court as long as they would like to see. He doesn't have the kind of record that some of the other judges in the lower courts would have had, which would have been more appealing to Democrats. So he is very moderate, and I think that's exactly the choice the president is giving the Senate.
And then we get to the politics. The whole idea in the Constitution says that the president nominates somebody, and then the other politicians sit down and have a listen and consider it. Well, that ain't going to happen. So why not?
Well, the Constitution is not very specific about timing. The president certainly has the right and really the obligation to nominate a justice, to send the name to the Senate. Then the Senate is supposed to advise and consent on the nomination. But we don't know when. There's no time limit in the Constitution. You don't have to do it by the election or within 6 months. And so I think the Senate, as they've said now clearly several times, they're going to sit on this until after the election.
Yeah, and help us out with something for a lot of our viewers, and certainly me coming from the Australian system, where it's the highest court in the land. Their job is to interpret the law and come up with the fairest judgment on that interpretation. But here, the court is, it's almost considered that it's a political body.
Right.
You've got 4 conservatives, you've got 4 liberals. If you get the 5th one, then, oh boy, everything's going your way. That's not how the law should be.
It's unusual, but this court, since the beginning, back when Justice Marshall was in charge a long, long time ago, they decided the Supreme Court was not just going to answer legal questions. We're going to determine the constitutionality of laws, things like same-sex marriage, immigration, abortion, gun rights. These are obviously political issues. So even though there's a legal component to it, it's a very political court.
Yeah, it certainly is. Paige, always good to see you. Thanks so much. I appreciate that. Pate here with us on